In a dimly lit room, Alice awakens, disoriented and alone. Her memories are fragmented, as if pieces of her life have been wiped away. The future she comes from, a dystopian world ruled by a totalitarian organization called the Control Bureau, has left deep scars on her, both physically and emotionally. In her time, the Control Bureau maintains an iron grip over society by controlling time itself. They have the ability to manipulate key events, ensuring that they remain in power and suppressing any resistance. Alice is a former soldier, a warrior who fought against the regime in the future. She was sent to the present day on a mission to find and protect Rommel, a brilliant but reclusive scientist whose inventions will one day be used to enslave humanity. Alice knows that Rommel's creation, a powerful time manipulation device, holds the key to the Control Bureau's rise. But she also knows that without his device, humanity stands no chance of surviving the chaotic wars that will inevitably arise. Determined to alter the course of history and save her world, Alice begins her search for Rommel, knowing that if she fails, the future she left behind will remain trapped in darkness. Meanwhile, in a small, cluttered workshop hidden away from the public eye, Rommel toils away on his latest invention. He is a brilliant scientist, known for his unconventional theories about time and reality. Rommel has been working on an ambitious project, a device capable of manipulating the flow of time itself. His goal is to harness time's power to prevent disasters and improve the world, but he is unaware of the disastrous consequences that his invention will bring in the future. Rommel lives a solitary life, his mind constantly consumed by his work. He is haunted by the recent loss of his family, who were killed in a tragic accident that he believes he could have prevented if only he had developed his time technology sooner. This obsession with reversing time has made Rommel withdrawn and emotionally distant, pushing away anyone who tries to get close to him. Despite his brilliance, Rommel struggles with ethical concerns about the potential misuse of his technology. He knows that in the wrong hands, his invention could be catastrophic, but he also believes that it could be humanity's greatest tool for progress. Little does he know, his invention is already attracting the attention of dangerous forces far beyond his understanding. One rainy evening, Alice's path finally crosses with Rommel's. She tracks him down to his workshop, where she observes him working from a distance. Alice is cautious. She knows that Rommel has no idea who she is or what is at stake. She needs to gain his trust, but she also needs to keep her true identity and mission a secret, at least for now. Alice watches Rommel for days, studying his habits and patterns. She sees a man burdened by guilt and haunted by his past, someone who desperately wants to make a difference but is blind to the. In a dimly lit room, Alice awakens, disoriented and alone. Her memories are fragmented, as if pieces of her life have been wiped away. The future she comes from, a dystopian world ruled by a totalitarian organization called the Control Bureau, has left deep scars on her, both physically and emotionally. In her time, the Control Bureau maintains an iron grip over society by controlling time itself. They have the ability to manipulate key events, ensuring that they remain in power and suppressing any resistance. Alice is a former soldier, a warrior who fought against the regime in the future. She was sent to the present day on a mission to find and protect Rommel, a brilliant but reclusive scientist whose inventions will one day be used to enslave humanity. Alice knows that Rommel's creation, a powerful time manipulation device, holds the key to the Control Bureau's rise. But she also knows that without his device, humanity stands no chance of surviving the chaotic wars that will inevitably arise. Determined to alter the course of history and save her world, Alice begins her search for Rommel, knowing that if she fails, the future she left behind will remain trapped in darkness. Meanwhile, in a small, cluttered workshop hidden away from the public eye, Rommel toils away on his latest invention. He is a brilliant scientist, known for his unconventional theories about time and reality. Rommel has been working on an ambitious project, a device capable of manipulating the flow of time itself. His goal is to harness time's power to prevent disasters and improve the world, but he is unaware of the disastrous consequences that his invention will bring in the future. Rommel lives a solitary life, his mind constantly consumed by his work. He is haunted by the recent loss of his family, who who were killed in a tragic accident that he believes he could have prevented if only he had developed his time technology sooner. This obsession with reversing time has made Rommel withdrawn and emotionally distant, pushing away anyone who tries to get close to him. Despite his brilliance, Rommel struggles with ethical concerns about the potential misuse of his technology. He knows that in the wrong hands, his invention could be catastrophic, but he also believes that it could be humanity's greatest tool for progress. Little does he know, his invention is already attracting the attention of dangerous forces far beyond his understanding. One rainy evening, Alice's path finally crosses with Rommel's. She tracks him down to his workshop, where she observes him working from a distance. Alice is cautious. She knows that Rommel has no idea who she is or what is at stake. She needs to gain his trust, but she also needs to keep her true identity and mission a secret, at least for now. Alice watches Rommel for days, studying his habits and patterns. She sees a man burdened by guilt and haunted by his past, someone who desperately wants to make a difference but is blind to the consequences of his actions. One day, as Rommel steps out of his workshop, Alice decides it's time to make her move. She approaches him, pretending to be lost, asking for directions. Rommel, though guarded, offers her assistance. Their conversation is brief, but it leaves an impression on both of them. Alice sees the vulnerability in Rommel that he tries to hide, while Rommel is struck by something familiar in Alice's eyes, though he can't quite place it. Over the next few days, their paths cross more frequently. Alice continues to engage with Rommel, slowly gaining his trust. She is careful not to reveal too much, but her presence begins to disrupt Rommel's isolated existence. He finds himself drawn to her, curious about this mysterious woman who seems to know so much about the world yet hides parts of herself. As Alice and Rommel's interactions become more frequent, Alice begins to feel the weight of her mission. She is torn between her duty to protect Rommel and her growing attachment to him. She knows that she must eventually tell him the truth about who she is and what his invention will lead to, but she fears how he will react. Rommel is a man who has already lost so much, and the burden of knowing the future could break him. Meanwhile, Rommel's work on the time manipulation device progresses rapidly. He is on the verge of a major breakthrough, but strange things begin to happen around him. He notices unexplained glitches in time, moments that seem to repeat or occur out of sequence. At first, he dismisses them as stress-induced hallucinations, but as they become more frequent, Rommel realizes that something is seriously wrong. Unbeknownst to Rommel, agents of the Control Bureau have also arrived in the present. They are hunting Alice, determined to stop her from interfering with their plans. The Bureau has been manipulating time for years, ensuring that key events unfold in their favor, and they see Alice's presence as a threat to their control. As the Bureau tightens its grip, Alice knows that time is running out. She must tell Rommel the truth and prepare for the inevitable battle with the Control Bureau. The stage is set for a high-stakes game of cat and mouse, as Alice and Rommel face the growing danger of the Control Bureau while grappling with their own personal demons. In the shadows, the future waits to be rewritten, and the fate of the world hangs in the balance. As Alice grows closer to Rommel, the tension between her mission and her emotions heightens. Rommel's loneliness, fueled by the loss of his family, begins to fade as Alice becomes a constant presence in his life. But the burden of her secrets weighs heavily on Alice's shoulders. She knows that Rommel's invention is dangerous and will lead to the dystopian future she escaped from, yet she also sees the good in him, the hope he has for using time manipulation to save lives. One evening, Alice can't help but visit Rommel's workshop after hours. She stands outside, staring at the large industrial building, watching the lights flicker within. Unbeknownst to her, Rommel sees her from inside. He's noticed her habit of staying nearby, observing him as if trying to protect him from unseen threats. Rommel steps outside, catching her off guard. Feeling cornered, Alice fumbles with an excuse, but Rommel cuts her off. He asks her directly why she always appears when he least expects it. Sensing that the time for lies is over, Alice decides to tell Rommel a version of the truth. She reveals that she knows about his work, about his experiments with time manipulation, and that she has knowledge of people who want to misuse his inventions. Rommel, initially shocked, asks how she could possibly know about something so secret. Alice hesitates, avoiding the full truth, but tells him that she's been following his work because of how important it is. Rommel, conflicted between trust and suspicion, allows Alice to stay close, but he begins to question her true motives. As Rommel's doubts about Alice grow, so too does his awareness of the strange phenomena happening around him. Time glitches are increasing, with clocks freezing for seconds at a time, birds flying in reverse, and brief flickers of events that feel out of place. Rommel logs each anomaly meticulously in his research, trying to find a pattern, while Alice becomes more concerned. Meanwhile, the Control Bureau's agents continue to move through the city, quietly eliminating those who know too much. The Bureau's leader, known only as the Architect, personally oversees their hunt for Alice. The Architect was the mastermind behind the dystopian future's creation, a genius who built the Bureau's time manipulation systems. He is obsessed with controlling the future and ensuring that time remains a tool for the Bureau's domination. Rommel's invention is central to this plan. The Architect's agents are closing in on Alice, but she doesn't know that one of them, Agent Marcus, has discovered Rommel's location. Marcus observes Alice and Rommel from a distance, reporting back to the Architect with every development. Rommel's importance to their mission becomes clear, and the Architect issues a chilling order. Rommel is to be captured alive, and Alice is to be eliminated. Rommel, frustrated by the increasing anomalies in time and by Alice's vague warnings, begins to experiment with the prototype of his time manipulation device. He's convinced that if he can control these glitches, he will be able to perfect his invention and prevent the tragic accidents that haunt him. Alice watches in silence as Rommel activates the device one evening. For a few seconds, the entire workshop is bathed in an otherworldly light. Time bends around them. Objects move in slow motion, and Rommel can see past moments flicker before his eyes. But the experiment quickly spirals out of control, sending Rommel into a state of confusion and fear as he realizes the sheer magnitude of the forces he's tampering with. Alice rushes to shut the device down, and in doing so, accidentally reveals more of her knowledge about time manipulation than she intended. Rommel, stunned by her actions, demands to know who she really is. Alice, cornered and unable to maintain the facade any longer, finally tells him the full truth. She confesses that she is from the future, a future where Rommel's invention was used by the Control Bureau to enslave humanity. She explains that Rommel's time manipulation device was turned into a weapon, allowing the Bureau to control events and erase anyone who posed a threat to their regime. Alice reveals that she is part of the resistance movement that fought back, but they were losing the war. She was sent back to the past to stop Rommel from completing his invention. Rommel is devastated. He had hoped to use his invention to save lives, to prevent tragedies, and to fix the world's greatest problems. Hearing that his work would be twisted into something monstrous shakes him to his core. Rommel's immediate reaction is one of disbelief. He accuses Alice of manipulating him and questions whether any of what she said is true. His faith in his own work and his trust in her begins to crumble. Rommel argues that if Alice's mission is to stop him from creating the device, then she has been lying to him from the start, and she's no different from the people she claims to be fighting. Alice, hurt by Rommel's harsh words, tries to explain that her feelings for him are genuine, but she had no choice but to hide the truth for the sake of the mission. She admits that her world is dying, and if she fails, humanity will be trapped in a timeline where the Control Bureau rules forever. Rommel, still reeling, tells Alice that even if she is telling the truth, he cannot simply destroy his life's work without considering other options. As the argument intensifies, Alice is forced to make a heartbreaking decision. If Rommel refuses to stop his research, she will have to destroy the device herself. Rommel, deeply conflicted, tells Alice that he needs time to think about everything she has told him. In the background, Agent Marcus watches from the shadows, reporting back to the Architect. He informs his leader that Alice has revealed her mission to Rommel and that the scientist is beginning to question everything. The Architect, cold and calculating, orders Marcus to prepare for an immediate assault on Rommel's workshop. The Bureau cannot afford to let Rommel waver or destroy his invention. They will intervene before he has the chance. As the agents close in, Alice and Rommel are left standing on opposite sides of a growing divide, one that threatens not only their fragile relationship but the very future of humanity. As dawn breaks over the city, the tension between Alice and Rommel reaches its peak. Rommel, consumed by a storm of conflicting emotions, spends the entire night in his workshop, re-examining his invention and replaying Alice's words in his mind. Everything he had believed, his motivations, his purpose, his vision for the future, now seemed twisted and fragile. How could the work he had dedicated his life to end in the nightmare Alice described? Could she be right? Alice, on the other hand, is torn between love and duty. She watches Rommel from afar, knowing that their relationship is now hanging by a thread. She can sense the control bureau closing in. Time is running out, and Rommel's indecision could cost both their futures. Still, she holds out hope that Rommel will come to realize the gravity of the situation. She can't bring herself to destroy his invention outright. Not yet. She needs Rommel to see the truth himself. In the midst of this turmoil, Rommel suddenly remembers an old journal his father once kept. Rommel's father had been a scientist as well, working on theories that seemed absurd in their time, about quantum physics and the multiverse. Though Rommel never understood it all, his father always believed that time could be manipulated, shaped like clay. Before his father died, he had left Rommel a message, something cryptic about the burden of genius. At the time, Rommel dismissed it as the ramblings of an old man. But now, with Alice's warnings echoing in his head, he wonders if his father knew more about time and fate than anyone realized. Rommel scours his home for the journal, eventually finding it buried in the back of a closet. Flipping through the worn pages, Rommel finds entries that reference concepts eerily similar to the time manipulation technology he's been working on. His father wrote about the dangers of tampering with time, warning that any manipulation could cause unintended ripples, consequences no one could foresee. It's almost as if Rommel's father knew something like the Control Bureau would come into existence. Shaken, Rommel begins to see that perhaps Alice is telling the truth. But he is not ready to give up his work just yet. He confronts Alice, asking her if there's another way. Some way to change the future without destroying his invention. Alice, though sympathetic, remains firm. Time manipulation is too dangerous. No matter Rommel's intentions, someone would eventually weaponize it. Just as Rommel begins to come to terms with the fact that his invention might need to be destroyed, the Control Bureau makes its move. Marcus and a team of agents storm Rommel's workshop under the cover of night. They move silently and swiftly, using advanced technology to scramble security cameras and disable Rommel's alarms. Their orders are clear: capture Rommel and retrieve his time manipulation device, but kill Alice on sight. Alice, always vigilant, senses the danger just moments before the agents strike. She and Rommel are still in the workshop when the first agent crashes through the skylight, sending shards of glass scattering across the floor. Rommel, taken by surprise, stumbles back as Alice leaps into action. Her instincts from years of battle in the dystopian future kick in, and she takes down the first agent with precision, using hand-to-hand combat to disable him before he can even reach for his weapon. But more agents flood into the building, and it quickly becomes apparent that this is a well-coordinated assault. The Control Bureau had been planning this for some time, and they are not going to let Alice or Rommel escape easily. The sound of gunfire echoes through the workshop as Alice fights desperately to protect Rommel, all while trying to figure out how to get him out alive. Rommel, still in shock from the sudden attack, watches in disbelief as Alice moves like a seasoned warrior, her movements quick and lethal. For the first time, he truly sees the extent of the future she comes from, the world where survival means fighting tooth and nail every day. This is not the life Rommel had ever imagined for himself, and it forces him to confront the reality of the stakes involved. In the chaos, Marcus sneaks through the shadows, his eyes locked on Rommel. He moves with the precision of a predator, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Alice catches sight of Marcus too late, and before she can stop him, he grabs Rommel, holding a gun to his head. Marcus orders Alice to surrender, threatening to kill Rommel if she resists. Alice, her heart pounding, raises her hands in surrender. She knows Marcus all too well. He's one of the Control Bureau's best, and he won't hesitate to pull the trigger. But Alice also knows that if they're captured, it's over. The Bureau will force Rommel to complete his invention, and the future will be lost. With Rommel held hostage, Alice has no choice but to comply with Marcus's demands. She is handcuffed and disarmed, her eyes locked on Rommel, whose expression is a mixture of fear and regret. Rommel realizes that Alice was right all along. The Control Bureau is real, and his invention is already being used to manipulate events. He feels responsible for the chaos that has unfolded and for dragging Alice into this nightmare. As Marcus's team prepares to extract them, Alice notices something. The time manipulation device is still active, albeit in a dormant state. She knows that if she can just reach the device, she might be able to use it to create a diversion. But the window of opportunity is closing fast. Just as they are being led out of the workshop, Alice makes a bold move. With a sudden burst of strength, she breaks free from her captor's grip and dives toward the device. Rommel, seeing what she's trying to do, instinctively throws himself to the ground, giving Alice the opening she needs. She slams her hand onto the device's activation switch, sending a shockwave of energy through the room. Time itself seems to warp, freezing the Control Bureau agents in place for a brief moment. Alice grabs Rommel's hand, pulling him toward the exit. They race through the workshop, dodging bullets as the agents begin to recover from the time distortion. Alice knows that the effects of the device are temporary, and they need to get as far away as possible before the Bureau catches up. As they flee into the night, Alice and Rommel take refuge in a safe house she had set up weeks earlier. Inside, Rommel finally confronts the full weight of the situation. His invention has become a weapon, and he has put both their lives in danger. Alice, bruised and exhausted, tells him that they need to destroy the device before it's too late. Hiding out in the safe house, Rommel and Alice work together to devise a plan. Rommel finally agrees to destroy the device, but they need to ensure that the Control Bureau won't rebuild it once it's gone. Rommel comes up with a plan. He will introduce a fatal flaw into the design, something that only he knows how to fix. That way, even if the Bureau captures the device, it will be useless without his knowledge. As Rommel works to sabotage his own invention, Alice begins to think about the bigger picture. Even if they destroy the device, the Control Bureau will still exist, and they will continue to manipulate time to suit their needs. Alice realizes that they need to take down the Control Bureau itself if they want to prevent the future she came from. But just as they finalize their plan, Rommel receives an unexpected message, a video recording from Marcus. The recording shows Alice's future, but it's not the dystopian nightmare she described. Instead, it's a peaceful, advanced world, a utopia where time manipulation has been perfected and used for the betterment of humanity. In the recording, Marcus tells Rommel that Alice has been lying to him, that her resistance movement wants to prevent progress and keep the world trapped in chaos. Rommel, shaken, turns to Alice. He doesn't know what to believe anymore. Alice insists that the recording is a lie, a manipulation by the Control Bureau to confuse him. But doubt has already begun to creep into Rommel's mind. Can he truly trust Alice, or is she hiding something even more devastating? Rommel's heart pounds as Marcus's message replays in his mind. The images of a utopian future, so different from the bleak world Alice had described, haunt him. Could Alice have misled him? Could her resistance movement be the ones preventing humanity's progress? Inside the safe house, the tension between Alice and Rommel thickens. Alice senses his doubt, though she doesn't confront him right away. She knows Rommel is processing the implications of what he's just seen, but every second wasted brings the Control Bureau closer. Alice's survival instincts scream at her to run, but her feelings for Rommel keep her rooted in place. That night, as they sit together in the dimly lit room, Rommel finally speaks. "Is it possible that the Control Bureau isn't all bad?" he asks, his voice quiet but heavy with uncertainty. Maybe they've found a way to use time manipulation for good. What if we're the ones stopping a better future? Alice feels a pang in her chest. She knows this moment was inevitable, but hearing Rommel question everything makes her stomach twist with dread. She looks him in the eyes, her voice calm but resolute. I know it's hard to believe, Rommel. They've shown you an illusion of perfection, but that future is built on control, on the erasure of free will. I've lived through it. I've seen the suffering they cause in the shadows. You haven't. Rommel listens, but remains silent. The seed of doubt has taken root, and Alice can see it growing. In the back of his mind, he wonders if there's any truth to what Marcus showed him. He can't shake the feeling that there's more to the story. As the night drags on, Rommel reviews his father's journal again, trying to find clarity. His father had written about the moral dilemmas of controlling time, but he also believed in the potential for such technology to help humanity. The more Rommel reads, the more torn he becomes. His father had always believed that power, in the right hands, could be a force for good. But how can he be sure who holds that power now? Meanwhile, Alice makes preparations to move. She knows they can't stay in the safe house much longer. The Control Bureau is undoubtedly tracking them, and soon they'll have no choice but to face their enemies head-on. As she packs their essentials, Alice tries to reach Rommel emotionally, to remind him of the bond they've shared and the reasons they started this journey together. But Rommel's silence speaks louder than words. He's caught in a web of confusion, unsure of what to believe. The following day, Alice and Rommel prepare to leave the safe house. Their plan is to head to an abandoned facility where Rommel can finish sabotaging the device. However, Rommel's mind is clouded with indecision. Every step he takes feels like a betrayal, either of Alice, who has risked everything to stop the Control Bureau, or of his own conscience, which now questions whether the future Alice fights against might be a better path. As they drive toward the facility, tension fills the car. Alice tries to maintain focus, but she knows something is wrong. Rommel hasn't spoken much, and his eyes dart nervously toward her every now and then. She doesn't ask what's bothering him, not yet. Instead, she tries to keep the conversation light, but nothing can break the silence between them. Unbeknownst to Alice, Rommel has made a secret decision. He knows that sabotaging the device will prevent the Control Bureau from using time manipulation, but if Marcus's version of the future is true, then destroying the invention could doom humanity to chaos. Rommel decides to send a message to Marcus, hoping to broker a truce, to see if there's a way to use the device for good. He believes that if he can work with the Control Bureau, he might be able to ensure that the technology is used responsibly. While Alice is asleep in the passenger seat, Rommel sneaks a quick message to Marcus through a secure channel he found in his father's journal, a backdoor connection that no one else knows about. He asks for a meeting, offering a deal. In exchange for his cooperation, Marcus must promise to use the time manipulation technology to help humanity and prevent it from being weaponized. When they reach the facility, Alice senses that something has shifted in Rommel's behavior. She's been on edge for hours, her instincts telling her that danger is near. They enter the facility, a cold, industrial space with forgotten machinery and rusted pipes lining the walls. Rommel sets to work on the device, but his heart races. Marcus could arrive at any moment. Alice's sharp eyes catch Rommel's unease, and she knows something is off. Her training in survival and combat has taught her to read people like a book, and Rommel's body language is screaming guilt. She approaches him slowly, her voice measured. "Rommel, is there something you're not telling me?" Rommel freezes. He wants to tell her the truth, but fear holds him back. He doesn't want to lose Alice, but he's convinced that contacting Marcus was the right thing to do. Before he can respond, the sound of footsteps echoes through the facility. Marcus and his team arrive. Marcus enters the room with his team, guns drawn. Alice immediately pulls out her weapon, but Marcus raises his hand, signaling his men to stand down. "We're not here to fight, Alice," he says smoothly. "Rommel reached out to me. He wants to make a deal." Alice's heart drops. She turns to Rommel, her eyes wide with disbelief. "You contacted them?" Her voice is filled with shock and betrayal. "After everything we've been through, you went behind my back?" Rommel can't meet her gaze. "I thought, maybe we could find a way to use the technology for good. Maybe Marcus isn't lying about the future he showed me. I just want to make sure we're doing the right thing." Alice shakes her head, her hands trembling. "You have no idea what you've done." She steps back, her heart breaking as she realizes that Rommel's doubt has led him to betray her trust. The man she had fought beside, the man she had come to care for, had turned to their enemies. Marcus steps forward, seizing the moment. "Rommel is right, Alice. You've been fighting a battle based on fear, but we can create a better future together." He glances at Rommel. "With Rommel's help, we can stabilize the technology, ensure it's used to benefit everyone." Alice's mind races. She knows Marcus's words are poison, but Rommel's decision has made their situation impossible. With the Control Bureau now inside the facility, there's no escape. She's outnumbered, and Rommel's loyalty is wavering. Marcus gives the order to secure the device, and his men move quickly, surrounding Rommel and Alice. Alice's fingers twitch toward her weapon, but she knows that if she draws it, she'll be shot on sight. Her mind spins with desperation. There has to be a way out. But just as all seems lost, something unexpected happens. The time manipulation device activates on its own. In a flash, the room is consumed by a wave of energy. The time manipulation device, unstable from Rommel's tampering, spirals out of control. Time itself begins to warp. Objects in the room flicker in and out of existence, and for a moment, reality bends in unpredictable ways. The Control Bureau agents are thrown off balance, scrambling to regain control as the very fabric of time distorts around them. Alice seizes the moment. She grabs Rommel's hand and yanks him toward the nearest exit. "Run!" she shouts over the chaos, and Rommel, shaken by the intensity of the situation, follows without hesitation. As they sprint through the facility, dodging the ripples of warped time, Alice tries to keep her mind clear. She knows the device is on the verge of complete failure, and when it goes, it could tear a hole in reality itself. They have to escape before it's too late. Behind them, Marcus and his team struggle to contain the situation. Marcus barks orders, demanding that the device be stabilized, but it's too late. The time manipulation technology has reached critical mass, and even the most skilled engineers can't stop it now. As Alice and Rommel reach the exit, they feel a massive surge of energy ripple through the building. The walls crack, and the ground shakes beneath their feet. Time fractures around them, sending them into a disorienting whirl of images and memories. They see flashes of the past, moments from their lives flickering like broken film reels. Rommel sees his father's face, his childhood home, and the moment he first met Alice, all flashing before his eyes. Alice, too, is haunted by memories, her dystopian future, the battles she fought, the loved ones she lost. But she knows she can't get lost in the past. They have to keep moving forward. Finally, they burst through the doors of the facility, just as the entire building is engulfed in a massive explosion of temporal energy. They collapse onto the ground outside, gasping for breath, as the facility crumbles behind them. The device is destroyed, but at what cost? As Rommel and Alice regain their bearings, they find themselves lying on the cold ground, the remnants of the facility smoldering in the distance. The air is thick with dust and the acrid smell of burnt metal. They look at each other, both grappling with the enormity of what just happened. Alice sits up first, her heart racing as she scans the area for any signs of Marcus and his men. "We need to move," she urges, pulling Rommel to his feet. The chaos of the explosion still echoes in their ears, but they have little time to process it. They might be regrouping. We can't let them catch us again. Rommel, still dazed from the energy surge, nods absently. His mind races with the realization that they had potentially altered the course of history forever. The destruction of the time manipulation device could mean that the Control Bureau's plans are thwarted, but what about the future they were trying to protect? The consequences of their actions weigh heavily on him. As they make their way through the debris, Alice's instincts kick in. She knows that they need to find shelter and regroup. "There's a safe house not far from here," she says, leading the way through a narrow path lined with charred rubble. "We can lay low and figure out our next move." Rommel follows, but his thoughts are consumed by guilt and uncertainty. "Alice, about what happened back there." He starts, but she cuts him off. "Not now, Rommel. We can't afford distractions. We need to focus on surviving." Her tone is firm, and Rommel can hear the resolve in her voice. He understands her urgency, but the emotional turmoil inside him remains. They reach the safe house, an abandoned building nestled in a dense thicket of trees. It's a grim structure with peeling paint and broken windows, but it offers the cover they desperately need. Inside, Alice quickly checks for any signs of danger before letting her guard down. As they settle into the dimly lit room, Rommel finally finds the courage to confront the tension between them. "Alice, I need you to know that I didn't mean to betray you. I thought I was doing the right thing." Alice's expression softens, but her eyes remain wary. "I know you didn't want to hurt me, Rommel, but you have to understand the gravity of what we're facing. The Control Bureau isn't just a threat. They're an oppressive force that seeks to control every aspect of our lives. We can't trust them." Rommel takes a deep breath, wrestling with his conflicting feelings. "I understand, but the future Marcus showed me, it was beautiful. It made me question everything." "Beautiful, but at what cost?" Alice retorts, her frustration evident. "It's a world built on control and manipulation. We must fight for a future where people are free to make their own choices." The tension between them is palpable, but there's an undeniable connection that still binds them. Rommel reaches for Alice's hand, trying to bridge the emotional gap. "I don't want to lose you. I need to believe in something again." Alice hesitates but ultimately squeezes his hand, acknowledging their bond. "Then let's fight together. But we have to be on the same side. No more secrets." After a night of restless sleep, filled with haunting dreams of the chaos they narrowly escaped, Rommel and Alice awaken to a new day. The sun filters through the cracked windows, casting soft rays of light across the room. The remnants of their conversation linger in the air, a reminder of the trust they must rebuild. Alice spends the morning strategizing. They need to gather information about the Control Bureau's operations, understand their capabilities, and find allies among the rebels. "We can't go at this alone," she asserts as they sit around a makeshift table strewn with maps and notes. Rommel nods, a sense of purpose awakening within him. "What's the next step?" "We need to contact the Resistance," Alice replies, pulling out a worn map of the city. "There's a network of rebels who have been fighting against the Control Bureau. If we can find them, we can form a united front." With Alice leading the charge, they spend hours devising a plan to infiltrate the city's underground network. They need to move cautiously, as the recent explosion at the facility has likely drawn attention to their whereabouts. Rommel suggests using a series of back alleys to navigate the city, minimizing their exposure. He feels a renewed sense of determination, knowing that the fight for their future is not just for themselves, but for everyone oppressed under the Control Bureau's regime. As they prepare to leave, Alice gives Rommel a determined look. "No matter what happens, we stick together. We can't let anything tear us apart again." Rommel nods, his resolve strengthening. Together. Navigating the city proves to be a treacherous endeavor. The remnants of the Control Bureau's surveillance system loom over them, and every shadow feels like a potential threat. They take the back alleys, moving like ghosts through the crumbling remnants of a once thriving metropolis. After hours of careful maneuvering, they finally reach a dimly lit cafe, a known meeting spot for rebels. Inside, the atmosphere is thick with tension as a group of weary individuals huddles in the corner, exchanging hushed whispers. Alice approaches them cautiously, introducing herself and Rommel as allies in the fight against the Control Bureau. The rebels exchange skeptical glances, but Alice's passion and conviction shine through. She recounts their recent experiences, detailing the destruction of the time manipulation device and the danger posed by Marcus and his team. One of the rebels, a seasoned fighter named Jack, steps forward. "You've done well to escape, but you have no idea how deep the Control Bureau's reach extends. They won't stop until they hunt down every last one of us." Rommel feels the weight of Jack's words. "What do we do now?" Jack takes a deep breath. "We need to strike at their core. The Control Bureau has a central command located in the old government building. If we can disrupt their operations there, it might buy us some time to regroup and plan our next move." Alice exchanges a glance with Rommel, their shared determination igniting a spark of hope. "Then we strike at dawn," she declares, her voice unwavering. The rebels nod in agreement, and the atmosphere in the cafe shifts from uncertainty to resolve. As they strategize, Rommel and Alice share fleeting glances, their connection deepening as they stand united against a common enemy. As the first light of dawn breaks through the horizon, Alice, Rommel, and their newfound allies gather outside the cafe, ready for their mission. The streets are eerily quiet, a tense anticipation hanging in the air. They can feel the weight of their choices resting heavily on their shoulders. Alice addresses the group, her voice strong and steady. "Today, we fight not just for ourselves, but for everyone who has suffered under the Control Bureau. We fight for a future where people can live freely, without fear of oppression. Let's make this count." Rommel stands beside her, his heart racing. He knows the stakes are high, but he feels a renewed sense of purpose. As they move through the city, he holds Alice's hand, a silent vow of solidarity. They reach the old government building, its facade crumbling and neglected, but still ominous. Jack leads the charge, and they approach the entrance with caution. The air is thick with tension as they breach the doors, revealing a darkened interior. Inside, the building is a maze of hallways and offices, remnants of a bygone era. The group splits up, each taking a different path to minimize their chances of being caught. Rommel and Alice work together, their instincts sharpened as they navigate the unfamiliar territory. As they reach the central command room, the tension is palpable. They find the control panel that oversees the Control Bureau's operations, surrounded by flickering screens displaying data and surveillance feeds. Rommel's heart races as he realizes the power they hold in their hands. Alice quickly gets to work, hacking into the system while Rommel keeps watch at the door. The adrenaline courses through him, and he feels the weight of their mission pressing down. "Alice, hurry. We don't have much time." Just as Alice breaches the system, alarms blare throughout the building. Red lights flash ominously, casting eerie shadows across their faces. "I'm in," she shouts, fingers flying over the keyboard. "We can disrupt their communication and..." Before she can finish, a squad of armed agents bursts into the room, guns drawn. "Hands up." One of them barks, and the situation spirals into chaos. Rommel instinctively pushes Alice behind him, adrenaline flooding his veins. They've come too far to back down now. In that moment, he knows they must fight or risk losing everything they've worked for. "Run," he shouts, and Alice doesn't hesitate. They dart for the exit, their hearts pounding as they weave through the chaos, determined to escape the clutches of the Control Bureau once and for all. The alarms blare like a siren's wail as Rommel and Alice sprint through the dimly lit corridors of the old government building. The echoes of their footsteps resonate in the tense atmosphere, amplifying the urgency of their escape. Each turn they take feels like a step deeper into the lion's den, but they push forward, driven by adrenaline and the instinct to survive. "We have to get to the emergency exit," Alice shouts over the cacophony, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. Rommel nods, determination etched on his face, as they make their way through the maze of hallways. Suddenly, the sound of heavy boots echoes behind them. A squad of agents, armed and ready, is hot on their trail. The reality of their situation sinks in. They are no longer just fighting for themselves. They are fighting for their lives against a ruthless organization that will stop at nothing to silence dissent. "Rommel here." Alice points to a door labeled Emergency Exit. They reach it just as the agents round the corner, guns drawn and eyes blazing with intent. "Go!" Rommel pushes Alice through the door, following close behind. The exit leads them into a narrow alleyway, and they can see the faint glow of dawn breaking through the horizon. Freedom is within reach, but the danger is far from over. They sprint down the alley, hearts pounding, the sounds of pursuit fading behind them. Rommel glances back, his mind racing with thoughts of the rebels they left behind. "We need to regroup with the others," he insists, leading Alice toward a rendezvous point they had previously established with the rebel group. Reaching the designated location, a hidden warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Rommel and Alice breathe a sigh of relief. The door creaks open, revealing Jack and a few other rebels waiting anxiously. Relief washes over their faces as they see Rommel and Alice have made it back. "What happened?" Jack asks, concern etched into his features. "We were ambushed," Rommel replies, his voice steady despite the chaos they just escaped. "We managed to disrupt their communication systems, but we need to plan our next move quickly. They're going to come after us." The group gathers around a makeshift table, the atmosphere heavy with urgency. Maps and plans are spread across the surface, each detail critical for their next steps. Alice speaks up, her voice unwavering. "We need to strike before they can regroup. We have the element of surprise on our side." Jack nods, impressed by Alice's resolve. "We can launch an attack on one of their supply routes. If we cut off their resources, we might be able to slow them down and give ourselves time to strategize further." Rommel's mind races with possibilities. "We can also use this opportunity to gather more allies. There are factions in the city that oppose the Control Bureau. We need to reach out to them." Alice meets Rommel's gaze, a silent understanding passing between them. They are in this together, fighting for a future that's uncertain but worth the risk. "Let's do it," she says, her determination igniting the group's spirit. With a plan in motion, the rebels split into groups to execute their respective tasks. Rommel and Alice are assigned to rally support from a faction known as the Silent Ones, a group of skilled fighters who have long evaded the Control Bureau's grasp. The journey to the Silent One's hideout is fraught with tension, each alley and shadow feeling like a potential trap. Rommel can feel Alice's unease, but he reassures her with a gentle squeeze of her hand. "We'll get through this. We're stronger together." As they approach the hideout, a dilapidated building draped in shadows, Rommel notices the remnants of a long-abandoned world. The once vibrant murals on the walls are now faded, but they tell stories of resilience and hope. It fuels his determination to make a change, not just for themselves but for all those oppressed by the Control Bureau. Inside, they are greeted by a wary group of fighters led by a woman named Zara. She stands tall, her eyes sharp and assessing. "What do you want?" she demands, her voice echoing through the dimly lit room. Alice steps forward, her voice steady. "We're here to unite against the Control Bureau. We need your help to launch a counterattack. Together, we can take a stand." Zara narrows her eyes, contemplating their proposal. "What makes you think we can trust you? The Bureau has eyes everywhere." Rommel feels the weight of Zara's scrutiny, but he steps up to the challenge. "We've already disrupted one of their operations. We know their weaknesses. With your strength and our intel, we can hit them where it hurts." Zara considers their words, the tension in the air palpable. After a moment, she nods, a flicker of hope igniting in her gaze. "All right, we'll join forces. But if you betray us, you won't live to regret it." With the Silent Ones now on their side, Rommel, Alice, and their growing coalition of rebels set their sights on the upcoming battle. They spend the next few days strategizing, gathering supplies, and preparing for the confrontation with the Control Bureau. As dawn breaks on the day of the siege, the atmosphere is charged with anticipation. Rebels gather, their faces a mix of fear and determination. Rommel looks around at his comrades, feeling the weight of their hopes resting on his shoulders. "We can't back down now," he addresses the group, his voice steady. "Today, we fight for our freedom and for everyone who has suffered under the Control Bureau. We fight for a future where we can live without fear." Alice stands beside him, her presence a calming force. "We have the strength of our numbers and the element of surprise. Let's make this count." With a final rallying cry, they set out, marching toward the supply route where the Control Bureau transports their resources. The path is fraught with danger, but their spirits remain high, fueled by the knowledge that they are not alone in this fight. As they approach the supply convoy, a convoy of trucks guarded by agents, adrenaline surges through Rommel's veins. He signals to the rebels to take their positions, and they prepare to strike. "On my count," Rommel whispers, his heart racing. 3, 2, 1 now." The ambush erupts in a flurry of chaos. Explosions rock the area as rebels charge forward, weapons drawn, catching the Control Bureau agents off guard. Rommel and Alice fight side by side, their movements synchronized as they take down enemies with precision. Despite the chaos, Rommel feels a sense of purpose. They are fighting for something greater than themselves, and the bond between him and Alice strengthens as they navigate the battlefield together. As the battle rages on, Rommel and Alice find themselves at the forefront of the conflict. They fight fiercely, taking down agents and pushing forward, determined to disrupt the Control Bureau's operations once and for all. But just as victory seems within reach, Marcus appears amidst the chaos, his presence striking fear into the hearts of the rebels. "You think you can take down the Control Bureau?" he sneers, a sinister grin plastered across his face. "You're nothing but a bunch of misfits." Rommel's heart races as he faces Marcus, the man who once represented hope but has now become a symbol of everything they oppose. "This ends today, Marcus," he declares, voice steady. "We won't let you control our lives any longer." Alice stands by Rommel's side, ready to face whatever comes next. "You've taken too much from us already. We're here to reclaim our freedom." The confrontation escalates, with Marcus summoning agents to his side. A fierce fight ensues, the air thick with the sounds of gunfire and shouts. Rommel feels the weight of the world on his shoulders as he battles against the very embodiment of oppression. In a moment of chaos, Rommel manages to break free from the throng, confronting Marcus one-on-one. "You think you can break us? We're stronger than you'll ever understand," he shouts, grappling with Marcus as they exchange blows. As the fight reaches its climax, Rommel channels all his energy into a final push, landing a powerful blow that sends Marcus crashing to the ground. He feels a surge of triumph, but knows the battle isn't over yet. With Marcus incapacitated, Alice and the other rebels seize the opportunity to push forward, overwhelming the remaining agents. The tide begins to turn in their favor, and Rommel can sense the shift in the air. As the last agents are taken down, cheers erupt among the rebels. They've successfully disrupted the supply route, and for the first time, they can see a glimmer of hope on the horizon. Rommel and Alice stand amidst the chaos, breathing heavily, their eyes locking in a moment of shared victory. "We did it," Rommel breathes, disbelief washing over him. "We actually did it." Alice smiles, a mix of exhaustion and elation on her face. "This is just the beginning, Rommel. We have so much more to fight for." Together, they embrace, feeling the weight of their journey and the promise of a future filled with hope. The battle may be won, but the war against the Control Bureau is far from over. United in purpose and strengthened by their bond, Rommel and Alice prepare to face whatever challenges lie ahead, knowing they have each other to rely on. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the story. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more delightful stories.